The school bell has not yet sounded when a flatbed truck races down the street. 3 men leap from the truck, one carrying a shovel and the other brandishing a screener, a crude blade meant to slash through flesh. Their victim is mere yards from St. Joseph's School in Longford, where parents are accompanying their children to school, unaware that they are about to witness an attempted murder. A woman running behind the attackers raises her phone, recording every detail as they circle Patrick Stokes and strike. This isn't random violence. It's the latest outburst in a long-running feud that's been tearing apart an Irish town for over 5 years. Patrick falls to the ground with a knife lodged in his stomach, his clothes soaked in blood as fearful parents shield the eyes of their children from the bloodshed they are witnessing. The attackers quickly flee, leaving Patrick bleeding heavily on the ground as the woman continues to film, believing she is capturing justice. But this attack outside a primary school is not ordinary. It is the climax of a bitter feud between Irish traveller families that began with something as innocent as a Christmas photograph and escalated into shootings, stabbings, and street fights that have turned Longford streets into war zones. The violence didn't start with the attack in October 2024, but 3 years earlier at Christmas 2021. The traveller community in Longford had gathered together at the time to celebrate. At the get-together, someone had the idea to get everyone's photo taken to commemorate the festive celebrations. But when a member of the Keenan family declined to have his photo taken with a member of the Stokes family, what had appeared to be a minor social faux pas became something much darker. The Stokes family, already known for cruelty, saw this refusal as a reason to start a war. By the end of New Year's Eve 2021, the Stokes and Keenan families had completely split. The fight began just weeks later, on January the 24th, 2022, in the Ardnacassa housing estate on the edge of Longford. In just 20 minutes, the police had received 23 emergency calls about shouting, screaming, and the sound of gunfire echoing through a residential street. Jamie Dinnigan was in the middle of this brewing storm, fighting with Keenan's relatives in a clash that set the tone for everything that followed. When things finally came to a head, Jamie produced a shotgun and fired twice reportedly at the Keenan crew. The Keenan crew retaliated by driving a white Ford Transit operated by Michael Ward Jr., who was driving down the road at approximately 60 kilometers an hour and hit Jamie. This intentional hit was supposed to kill him outright, but when Garda arrived, they found a strange scene. Jamie was wearing only his vest and boxers. His wife Teresa and others were helping him. Garda investigators suspected the garments were taken off to hide evidence like gunshot residue, and their search of a nearby storm drain revealed unused shotgun cartridges, 2 empty shotgun shells, and a shotgun butt. His discarded clothes were found nearby. Jamie had minor injuries from being hit by the van, but the message was clear: this feud would be fought with deadly weapons. The legal outcome revealed a significant issue that plagued all cases in this situation. The Traveller Code of Silence made it commonplace for witnesses to retract their testimony under family pressure. John Keenan Jr. initially told investigators that he heard Dinnigan shout, "You're dead, I'm killing you, you are leaving this place," before the van hit him. But like almost all other witness testimony in the case, it was later retracted. By July 2024, when the case finally came before the court, more serious charges of attempted murder had been dropped because of a lack of cooperating witnesses, leaving Jamie Dinnigan with 18 months in prison for a fray and other related offences, and Michael Ward was banned from driving for 4 years. Ward also received another 30 months in prison for a separate fight-related offence, which he will serve after his current sentence. On the 16th of March, 2022, in broad daylight at the town's central shopping centre, a large brawl between women from opposing families was recorded on mobile phones and then uploaded to Facebook. In the video, 2 women were fighting on the ground as others watched, shouting abuse and encouragement, with deep-seated feelings of years of enmity being unleashed in a public car park where families were shopping. Margaret Ward, Winnie Ward, Bernadette Keenan, and Nicole Keenan went to court over their involvement in the fight. Weeks later, another fight was recorded outside a Topaz fuel station. In this incident, a 4x4 and a car pulled over in the middle of the road, and people inside hurled abusive slurs at each other. This showed that the conflict had become so ordinary that people felt at ease blocking traffic to shout slurs in public. The violence culminated on April the 5th, 2022, Tuesday afternoon, when Patrick Stokes walked into Luigi's fast food takeaway on Main Street. Martin McDonough had just walked into order when Patrick walked in with his wife Jacinta, who immediately started recording video on her phone, expecting her husband to lash out. With 10 to 15 people in the restaurant, including children, Patrick immediately walked straight up to Martin and attacked him with a Stanley knife. Martin then ran behind the counter to take cover from the assaults. Luigi's owner, Peter Vocella, rushed to the defense of his customer and was repaid for his bravery with a deep cut to the thumb. His intervention probably saved Martin's life, as the two men fought in the small space at the back of the counter. Martin had Patrick in a headlock for a moment or two, but Patrick managed to free himself, dropped the knife, and ran for it out of the restaurant with Jacinta still recording. Martin collapsed from massive blood loss and required intensive care in a Dublin hospital. Doctors subsequently stated that the swift intervention of Peter Vocella and others had prevented a murder. Patrick Stokes was sentenced to 12 years in prison, the final 12 months suspended after pleading guilty to assault causing serious harm. The sentence was designed to keep him off Longford streets until at least 2028. The judge said Martin's explanation of having been butchered was fitting and condemned the savage assault witnessed by children at a public restaurant. But in a failure of the justice system that would have devastating consequences, Patrick Stokes was somehow back on Longford streets by late 2024, whether through appeal, early release, or temporary release arrangements that the authorities have never fully explained to the traumatized community. In 2022 and 2023, while Patrick was in prison and as the courts were slowly making their way through the cases, daily life was terrifying. Constant threats, property damage, and fear that carried over into the families themselves. Houses were burgled at night, windows were smashed, and families woke up to graffiti on their homes. Social media became a weapon of warfare as members of families posted threatening videos of their enemies and made direct threats of harm. The police recorded numerous low-level incidents that they believed were in retaliation, and families lived in fear of the next assault. Local businesses began reporting significant economic damage as customers avoided Longford's town centre rather than risk being caught in feud-related violence. Tourism fell, house prices fell, and the whole community felt hostage to a battle between families that seemed not to care about the wider harm their battle was causing. The assault that brought us back to that October 2024 morning at the gates of St. Joseph's School was the culmination of all the hatred and violence that had built up over time. The attackers had apparently been watching Patrick, studying his routines, and waiting for the right moment to strike. By choosing the school drop-off hour, they ensured parents and children would witness their revenge, sending a message that there was no place in Longford safe from them. Blocking escape routes with the flatbed truck, having weapons in abundance, and Winnie Keenan's decision to record the entire attack reflected planning and forward thinking that converted the potential for a spontaneous fight into a pre-planned act of terrorism. Patrick's survival was largely due to luck and the nearby doctors, where he collapsed before being airlifted to Dublin for emergency surgery. The prompt response of the Gardaí resulted in organized raids that recovered weapons used in the assault and led to the arrest of David Joyce, Martin Keenan, John Keenan, and Winnie Keenan, all charged with violent disorder and possession of weapons. David Joyce, a key player in the feud and married into the Keenan family, had previous charges of weapons, while Martin Keenan was under observation for another feud-related assault and had weapons, including machetes and a samurai sword in his house. The judge refused bail to the men on the basis that there was a real and substantial risk of them committing further crimes. This action worked to demonstrate the court's understanding that this attack was a new level in the conflict. Patrick Stokes is recovering from his wounds. David Joyce and the Keenan brothers are in jail awaiting their trials, while Winnie Keenan was remanded on bail, and Jamie is already doing time for the 2022 riot. In late 2024, brought unverified reports of peace talks mediated by traveler elders from outside Longford, suggesting that even within the wider community, people saw that the violence had spiraled out of control and was damaging everyone. There are moments of fierce combat and moments of tranquility, but it can happen again in an instant. The issues that led to this war are not yet resolved. The desire for revenge is still there, and since the justice system does not always send violent individuals to jail, peace today can fall tomorrow. The real tragedy of the Longford feud is not just the distress and brutality that have been inflicted on those involved, but also how it has hurt a whole community that just wishes to live in peace. What do you think about the Longford feud? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button for more stories. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.